inspiring stories along New Mexico's highways and byways. We're going to start this afternoon's session with Celia Castillo, who was raised right here in Grant County, began her career as a teacher, then became a lawyer, which we'll forgive her for. And if you heard the session earlier about the stolen painting, the cocooning that was found here in Silver City, you'll understand that remark. Seriously, Celia got involved with the International Women's Forum in New Mexico, and now she is a retired judge from New Mexico, and she's going to tell us about marking women's history in New Mexico.
As Heather said, I'm from Grant County. I graduated from Cobury High School, and as I look out here, I see some people that I know, which is really wonderful. When I was a lawyer here in Silver City for, about 14 years before I became a judge on the Court of Appeals. I've been retired almost 10 years, and it's during that retirement that I've spent my time on the Women's Marker Project. So I've been working on this for about 10 years, but the project itself has gone on for much longer. So spreading the word is the name of the, let's see if I can get this to work. There we go. All right. You've all seen these big scenic markers. Well, we had one. I don't know where it is now. These big scenic markers that are all over New Mexico. And they talk about places and people and things that are happening in that area. All right. Thank you, So anyway, the general scenic markers started in 1935. And men were featured on many of the markers. And there might have been maybe one woman on a marker. So in 1996, 3 members of the International Women's Forum of New Mexico, and that's the group that I belong to, Beverly Duran and Pat French and Alexis Gerard began discussing the idea of the need for women on these markers. And so they started in 1996, but the project didn't really get going until 2005. And the way that it got started is women in the forum went ahead and contacted the governor, the governor's wife, the legislators from all over the state, and many, many others to go ahead and see if we could get a bill passed in the legislature establishing a program to develop the markers. Now I'll tell you a little bit about the IWF New Mexico. We're part of IWF, that is a group of 7,800 women all over the world, and the whole purpose is to advance women's leadership and champion equity. So that's why this project was perfect, because this way women could be part of the whole scenic marker project. Well, we'll just do it this way. Here we go. All right, so we lobbied the legislature and it was successful. The New Mexico Women's Historical Marker Initiative was created. There was an appropriation of $330,000 made to the New Mexico Department of Transportation and to purchase and install historical markers for the initiative. The expenditure was for a period of 4 years, and the bill was signed, and I'm so happy it was signed, on International Women's Day, March 8th, okay, in 2006. So, we have the initiative. What do? You've got this project, and it was an appropriation, so there was really no bill to tell us how to do this. So what happened is the marker committee worked with the New Mexico Department of Transportation, with the New Mexico Cultural Affairs Department, with the Cultural Properties Review Committee, they're the ones that approve the markers, as well as the New Mexico Association of Counties, Commission on the Status of Women, historic and women's organizations, pueblos, tribes, historians, and the general public. The whole idea was to get nominations from these groups, go ahead and research the nominations, put them forward to the CPRC, have them review them and approve them, then work with the Department of Transportation to place the markers, and then hold dedication ceremonies in many cases. So it was a pretty big project. By the end of 2010, 64 markers honoring women had been placed all over New Mexico. But we didn't stop there. The story goes on. There were 3 more markers in 2011 and 2012, and we paid for a couple of those, and I figured out a way to get the 3rd one paid for. Then in 2014, the Department of Transportation said they had money in their budget to place the markers if we were able to get the women through the CPRC to have them approved, to have the information put on the markers. So the subcommittee again got into action using the list of nominations that had been researched and vetted, but not processed because there were many more nominations than markers. So it followed the same procedure, presented the nominations to the CPRC, and once approved, the DOT placed the additional markers. And these were all in the southern part of the state. So we're adding up here. Now, when you do a nomination, it has an application form, and there are sources on the application form, but there are also background information. So there's a lot of information about these women, but the only thing that is on the marker is this small part right here. So the question becomes, what do you do with all that material? And at several of the CPRC meetings, the idea of a website came up. And you heard today at lunch that websites are not easy. They are not easy. In spite of that, in 2015, the IWF New Mexico approved a budget of $25,000 to develop a website featuring the program. And that's the first page of our website back then. But in addition, we now have more markers coming along. Beginning in 2016, the DOT then told us that they had enough budget in their entire budget to go ahead and allow some more markers. They weren't limited to the southern part of the state. So in this case, we approved $7,200 to go ahead and get those applications prepared with the background on, see, you've got the nominations, but you've got to go through the additional step of going through the CPRC. So we went ahead and hired a researcher to help fill out those applications. So in 2016, 7 more women markers were approved, and in 2017, 9 more were approved. So we're coming along. By 2010, as I told you, there were 64 markers. Then with the funds from the IWF and the Department of Transportation, others were approved. So now we have 92 markers throughout New Mexico. And you can see, here they are. They include the 33 counties, pueblos, and tribes, and then here's a list of the women. Some of these markers have more than one woman on them. So what it comes down to is there are about 120 women featured on these 92 markers. But did you ever hear about this marker project before? No. That was the problem. The word was not getting out. So people would read the markers, when they stopped or something, but the word was not getting out. Now Lisa Nordstrom, who was going to talk about curriculum, she found the website, and she started using the website in her classroom. So she's going to tell us how to use the information we have in curriculum. But there was no organized effort to get the word out. And of course, by this point, we didn't have any funds anymore to continue the project. So the subcommittee became a 7-member steering committee, and we strategized again how to spread the word about the project and the stories of the outstanding women featured on those markers. So again, we did the same thing. We went ahead, we contacted the governor, we contacted the Department of Cultural Affairs, we contacted the Department of Transportation, we talked to the legislators, we got another appropriation. This appropriation, though, is not to install more markers. This appropriation is to get the word out. So what we want to do is expand accessibility and audience outreach, maintain and enhance the website. And so we've essentially done almost an entirely new website with all the women and with access to the background information. Another thing is we wanted to preserve and safeguard the stories of these women. At this point, we also needed a system for records management with all this information that we have. And then we wanted to promote the sustainability of the New Mexico Historic Women Marker Program through, well, we want to work with lots of stakeholders to get the word out and make sure people know about these wonderful women. So, it's no longer an initiative now. It's now a program. It's the New Mexico Historic Women Marker Program. And that's where we really do need to give a class. Because what we did was really not enough. If you don't get the word out about what there is, it's really not worth much. So that's what we're doing now. So what has been accomplished? Okay, right now, the New Mexico Magazine Adventure Guide has a 4-page pullout with what I showed you here, a map of the location of the markers and the marker women. And we're trying to get that information out. This happened in December of 2022. Oh, by the way, that appropriation we got is only good till June 30th, 2023. So we have been working like crazy to get all this work done. The El Palacio magazine, it's the magazine that's published by the Department of Cultural Affairs. We have a 2-page ad featuring some of our women. And as you can see, it's a 2-page ad. Then the Enchantment, which is the voice of New Mexico's World Electric Cooperative. They contacted us, we gave them information. So this went out to, I don't know, over 100,000 people that are members of the rural cooperatives. So the word is getting out. We also we launched the enhanced website on February 14th, 2023, Valentine's Day. It was our Valentine's gift to the women of New Mexico. The other thing that this website does is you can use it on your phone. It's very easy to use on your phone. Our first website was a little clunky when it came to that. Oh, and so here, nmhistoricwomen.org, you can look it up anytime, pull up the information, look up a woman, and learn all about it. We also have this, it's a 16-page pullout that was part of the New Mexico magazine, and it's a fabulous publication. It has 26, they couldn't do them all. So we had to choose 26, which is really hard. So each one has a picture and some information about these women. Then in El Palacio magazine in March, there's an article about how this program started and where we want to go with it. So if any of you have El Palacio, you can read about the marker program. Then on International Women's Day, this year, March 8th, 2023, we had a celebration to thank all the people that helped us get to where we are. And the celebration was at the Rotunda in Santa Fe. And you can see there's Lisa with some products that her students prepared when they did their curriculum. And it was a wonderful celebration to thank so many people. We also have small business cards, and Chris Pedersen, who is our program manager, okay, the card has her name and how to contact us. And as you can see, we have 20 plus women. What we want to do at some point is make sure we have cards for all of the women. So we're looking for really good pictures of the marker women. Now, the curriculum development is another thing that we're doing, and I'm going to leave Lisa to tell you all about that. So there's much more to come. We're working on traveling exhibits that will be prepared by the state library to be distributed to libraries throughout the state. And we're focusing on the rural areas. That's what we really like to do. And there'll be banners similar to that. And I just have to say something about that banner. Cecilia Bell saw our picture of Cathay Williams and explained that it wasn't really accurate. So she's given us this. So this is a drawing of what Cathay Williams might have looked like. So when word gets out, we get information about these women, and we'll get that information up. So if you have information about the women of the Marker Project, please contact Chris Pedersen, and there's a contact form on the website.
Celia,
Yes.
we've got to work on the Department of Transportation with the Fort Baird group. We have worked 3 years and we got the Magnus Coloradus in.
Mm-hmm.
We have a Fort Baird sign that was put up ago that's gotta be changed. And the lady said, nobody reads the signs anymore.
You know,
No man knew what the subject is.
I'm not sure that's the case.
Well, I don't think so either.
So, well, I'll talk to you
But
afterwards.
she is in charge.
Yeah. So those are the traveling exhibits. We're working on a speakers bureau. Like I said, we're working on archiving the materials. And what we want to do is get QR codes on the markers, okay? So when a person stops at a marker, they can look on their phone, on the website, and get the information. So, like I said, the state appropriation is good until June 30th, so we've got to really get on this. So, I'm gonna just mention a few of the historic women. I don't have time to do very many. So I'm gonna start with the Kiwa Women's Co-op. And the Kiwa Women's Co-op, if you go back in history, the jewelry and the hishi that they did goes back to pre-European times. So Santo Domingo Pueblo is also known as Kiwa Pueblo. So this is where this happens.